Ready now? In the middle.
Do we have the panel members?
Yeah. It's over to you, Mr. Chair.
Everybody's in?
Everybody's in.
Oh, including the public speakers?
Correct.
Less the two.
All in?
Except the two from Oricon.
The two for
the applicant
haven't joined yet.
Oh,
No.
sorry, Mr. Chair. The applicant's representatives haven't joined at this point. Yeah. However, it is 12:30.
Ready to go?
We're ready to go.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a formal meeting of the Ku-ring-gai Local Planning Panel. And on behalf of the panel, I recognise the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gringle people. And then we can move on to some formal matters. I should say that this meeting is being recorded, and people who speak should know that their voices and address will be on the public record, and you should be respectful of what you are saying, because the council is not liable for any defamatory comments you are. A couple of other formal matters. Apologies, there are none. It is appropriate that the panel members introduce ourselves, and we will do that now. I'm David Lloyd. I chair the panel. I'm a lawyer. I'm a KC. I'm a former judge of the Land and Environment Court, former acting judge of the Supreme Court, and more recently a professor of law at Western Sydney University. Ms. Dickerson.
Hi, my name is Hello, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Deborah Dickerson. I'm a planning consultant. I'm an independent town planning expert for the purposes of the local planning panel. My background is I have over 25 years of experience as a planner in local government, state government, and consulting.
Mr. O'Grady.
Yes, my name is John O'Grady. I'm a registered town planner. I'm in private practice as a sole consultant. I have more than 30 years experience, mostly in the private sector as a consultant town planner and landscape architect.
And Mr. Arnott.
Yes, my name's Ian Arnott. I'm the community representative on the panel, and I am from Comanara Ward in Ku-ring-gai. I also have a planning background. I'm a town planner with many years local government experience and private experience as well.
All right. The next formal matter is declarations of interest. I have received no declarations of interest from the panel members or staff. So we can now move on to the only item for consideration at this meeting, namely the proposed upgrading of a telecommunications facility at 100 Eaton Road, Linfield. We have a number of people who wish to address the panel. I should remind you all that the protocol which governs these meetings allows the members of the public to address the panel for up to 3 minutes. So we will now move straight into that procedure. We will hear from the objectors first, and the first person I will call on to speak is Jackie Dunford. We have Jackie Dunford online.
Yes, hello David, can you hear me there?
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Great, thank you.
Your 3 minutes starts now.
Great. Hello members of the panel, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I submitted an objection to the DA in October last year, and I would like to reiterate my concerns. Firstly, I'm concerned of the appropriateness of the telecommunication tower being located on a K-12 catchment school. Schools are classified as community sensitive locations by the Communications Alliance Industry Code, which states that telecommunication carriers are required to consider these locations when deciding placement for a site and take account of community concerns about locations of particular interest, such as places where children spend a lot of time. Further to this, the Department of Education states on their policy library when selecting a site for telecommunications facility, carriers must consider if the location is a community-sensitive location and, if possible, avoid such areas. To add to this, the Department of Planning and Environment, in the case of new mobile phone base stations, requests carriers to include an adequate number of alternate sites in an alternative site assessment. Hence, 3 different government bodies request that a review of site suitability is undertaken before this type of equipment is installed in a school. This DA is for the installation of new and more powerful telecommunication equipment. Documentation was omitted from the DA that showed that any alternative site assessment has been done, either back in 2004 when the tower was being built on the tertiary education facility, or more recently in 2017 when the school was being established. Can I ask that the community is informed of the alternative sites that were assessed, them not suitable enough, that our community sensitive location or a K-12 catchment school was deemed more suitable? Was there consideration made, for example, to build or move the tower to the 20 hectares of surrounding national parks outside our community sensitive location? Secondly, I'm concerned with the proposed significant increase in electromagnetic energy, or EME, by 10-fold within 50 to 100 metres of the tower, which is the location of the uncovered dedicated school playground. I note that these EME levels currently are below the public exposure limit as set by ARPANSA, but ARPANSA state that research is continuing in many countries into the possible health effects on health arising from RF exposure. In recognition of this, the Radiation Health Committee will continue to monitor the results and, where necessary, issue amendments. Further to this, it's understood many countries already ban and heavily restrict 5G and cell towers at schools. For example, in Europe, there are resolutions to halt 5G in numerous cities. Toronto, Canada has a prudent avoidance policy for cell towers. Greece, India is prohibited to install cell towers at schools. I'm an environmental consultant working with clients with PFAS impacted sites. As a result of ongoing research, national guidance values for PFAS in our drinking water are constantly under review to protect human health and the environment, and maximum acceptable levels of PFAS in drinking water are being lowered again late this year. Will it only be a matter of time before the public exposure limits to EME are lowered to minimise harm, particularly to the developing brains of young people?
That's your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Will you be much longer?
I just have there's one more third concern, that there was no consultation done with the school principals, the business manager, nor the PMC when these works were being proposed. And this is quite alarming to myself and the community. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next speaker I'll call on is Lee Dunford, please.
Hello.
We have Lee Dunford on there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, your 3 minutes starts now.
Okay. I registered to speak as this important decision will affect my children ages 5 and 8 who both attend Linfield Learning Village. I also speak on behalf of other concerned parents at the school. Upgrading the cell tower, which is positioned above the playground, proposes to increase radio frequency radiation. The proposed increase of 50 to 100 metre zone, which all of their playground, will be 10 times higher, from 19 milliwatts to 230 milliwatts per square metre. Several hundred children and their teachers attend this school 5 days a week for at least 6 hours. Our children will be there for up to 13 years, as it's our K-12 catchment school. The cell tower was first installed when it was the Ku-ring-gai UTS campus, and that's long before it became a primary and secondary school. We strongly request the DA is respected, and if a 5G cell tower upgrade is required, it be moved away from the school to a non-community sensitive area. Based on studies published in 2011, the World Health Organization and the International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified RF radiation as category 2B, which is possibly carcinogenic to humans. An official US website the National Library of Medicine states prolonged exposure to radiation from mobile towers may pose health risks such as neurological effects, cancer, and reproductive issues. There's ongoing research into the potential long-term health risks. Increased RF radiation exposure has been associated with stress, sleep disturbances, and increased anxiety. Generally speaking, children will have more exposure ahead of them compared to adults, and this is to be their safe school environment. Multiple countries around the world have prohibited cell towers from schools, hospitals, and aged care. I get that locals want better mobile coverage, but this will expose several hundred children to 10 times more RF radiation. Why are we increasing this when we should be looking to reduce exposure? I'd like to pose a final question to the panel when making your decision. Would you approve this if it were your own children attending the school and playing in the playground for 5 days a week for the next 13 years when studies are still ongoing and under investigation to find out the effects of long-term exposure on children's developing bodies? Have we not learned anything from lead in paint and fuels, asbestos and cigarette smoke? Please move the cell tower away from the school. Thank you.
That's good timing. All right, the next speaker I have on the list is Nicole Hammond.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Nikki Hammond. I'm a parent of 2 children who attend Linfield Learning School. Like many of the others in the community, I'm deeply concerned about the proposed 5G upgrade and the potential risks that it poses on our children's health and safety. I'm here today as a concerned parent and community member to strongly oppose the proposed upgrade of the telecommunications tower to 5G. This may not be a new site for a telecommunications tower, but the use of the site has changed since it was first approved. When the original telecommunications infrastructure was installed, this location was not a school for children and young people aged 4 to 18. Today, it is what the telco industry considers a community-sensitive location, attended by hundreds of children every day. Under industry guidelines, schools require special consideration for telecommunication infrastructure, which I assume is because of potential risks identified by the industry. Many parents and residents were and still are unaware of the tower's close proximity to the school and the extent of this proposed upgrade. So a very small survey that I conducted amongst just the engaged parents showed that a majority of us had no prior knowledge of the telecommunications tower at all before enrolling our children. I asked them to respond to the statement, "I knew there was a telecommunications tower on top of the school before I enrolled my kids." 14 of 15 people said no, they were not aware of this. Additionally, this school is a catchment school, meaning many families did not have the option to choose another school without uprooting their lives. Their children's safety should not be potentially compromised by a decision they never had the opportunity to weigh in on. What you're proposing with the upgrade to 5G is a 10-fold increase in radiation, using a technology that has no research of its long-term health implications. So this upgrade raises serious concern for me and for many of us. I recognise that the Council's Environmental Health Officer may not acknowledge the long-term health impacts, but it's important to note there is no clear consensus on long-term safety. So why take the risk with our children? When children as young as 4 start kindergarten, once a 5G tower is installed, individuals will be potentially exposed to 5G radiation 6 hours a day, 5 days a week for about 10 months a year for 13 years. So please reject this DA and require that Telstra and any future telco find a new location for this 5G telecommunications tower. So I'm asking that you prioritise the precautionary principle, given its change in site use, the lack of adequate community consultation, the significant increase in radiation levels and unknown long-term health impacts. Thank you so much for listening to the voices of the parents who are represented here today. And I really hope that this decision about this telecommunication infrastructure will prioritise safety, transparency and informed consent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that. The next speaker I have is Max Peel.
Jackie.
Oh, Mr. Chair.
Jackie Dunford.
Yeah, we have
Vanessa.
we We also have Vanessa Holtham as a registered to speak against the proposal as well.
Oh, do we do? Okay.
Hi, most of you know me, Vanessa Holtham. I am speaking. I'm not going to reiterate what the other objectors have mentioned. I've outlined my objections in my written submission. There's just a couple of key points. I'm obviously strongly concerned about the proposal. This is the first time being in the industry that I've ever objected to any DA or any application. Just to touch on a few things that others mentioned, obviously Jackie appears to be far more across the data, and I have concerns along those lines. But one of the other speakers mentioned consultation, and one of the concerns here is there's a handful of us. I'm not even sure that the school is fully aware that this is happening. I think, it was brought to the attention of the school, and I don't think there's been, there hasn't been, as far as I'm aware, proper consultation with the principal, the school community, the PNC, as whether people like it or not. This is considered a controversial application, even if you don't agree that the environmental or health effects may be there. This is an application that polarizes opinions. Of the handful of people that kind of have discussed this, there's already heated debate going on, and parents getting annoyed at each other. I mean, so putting aside the potential health impacts, of which we know nothing about, I will reiterate what the others said. There are opinions polarizing. It's having social impacts within the school. I mean, if any of you are aware, the school have had a bit of a rough trot over the last year or so, and this is just exacerbating that issue. Just one of the other things to mention is that I don't believe any alternative sites are being considered. In fact, I think that was dismissed as something that was quite irrelevant because there's an existing tower there. I don't think you just further exacerbate the existence of the tower by just increasing. At what point do we say no? This is about young brains. It's about, as everyone else has said, I've got 3 children. We've moved to the area because we actually were living in Pyrmont, where the environmental effects of dust to do with the metro was unbearable. So to have this happen is quite gutting, I guess. But yeah, I'd like to see the alternative sites that were considered. I'm sure National Parks and Wildlife wouldn't have this in their location, potentially because of effects on flora and fauna. Well, I say the effects would be far potentially worse on our children. And lastly, I would say that a school is not a place, in my opinion, to facilitate such infrastructure. A school is there for children to go and be safe and learn. If you've been to Lingfield Learning Village, it's nestled in the bush. It's not somewhere you'd expect your child to attend and become unwell. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we can now hear from Max Peel.
Hi all, Max Peel from Oricon on behalf of the applicant Telstra. I'll keep my presentation fairly brief because the points are mostly put forward in the development application and the subsequent responses to further information. But I will start with health and safety concerns. So we understand that the concerns have been raised for potential health impacts of electromagnetic energy. Telstra emphasises its commitment to EME safety, adhering to the standards set by the Australian Radiation Protection and Nuclear Safety Agency, ARPANSA. From our ARPANSA, there's no substantiated evidence that exists to link radio frequency technology operating within safety standards to health effects. All base stations comply with the Radiation Protection Series S1 standard, which protects all individuals, including children. And we also want to emphasise the point that this is not necessarily a planning issue that has been raised. In terms of the site selection process, questions about the adequacy of site selection has been raised. The proposal is for an upgrade of an existing facility, not a new site selection, which is specified in the industry code. the relocation for safety reasons is not supported as the current site complies with the ARPANSA standards that have just been mentioned before, and the proposed design improves the visual outcomes as specified within the development application. One other point in terms of the submissions raised, Telstra expresses gratitude for community input and acknowledges the balance required between community services and individual concerns. We believe that this proposal is going to provide additional added benefit to the community of Linfield, including the Learning Centre. And so as such, we have put forward the development application to upgrade the services at the Linfield Early Learning Centre. Thank you for letting me speak. Thank you.
Any questions by the panel? None? All right.
Yeah,
Thank
yes,
you.
I will, Mr. Chair, if I could. I just thank you all for your presentations. I just asked the applicant's representative, Max, if I could, or Mr. Peel. Is it correct to say that with the upgrade to 5G, not the upgrade of this site, but that more towers are going to be required as a result of that, that the distance between towers needs to be reduced for the 5G infrastructure?
I'm not aware of new additional towers needing to be installed or constructed as required by the new technology.
Right. And is your understanding of the radiation that it goes out in a cone formation, and this, so immediately below the tower isn't necessarily as impactful as perhaps further out? Is that an understanding of radiation transmission?
Yeah, look, I've been in the industry for a while. I'm certainly no EME expert. I'm not sure if Phil Dieters is on the line. He's our designer, but I can speak to the fact that the 4G technology is more of a plume, if you will, and the 5G technology is more of a direct signal between the tower and the device being used.
Right.
Yeah, and look, again, I'm not an electromagnetic expert, and it's probably best if I leave my answer there. Phil, I'm not sure if you're on the line and would like to add anything.
Doesn't look like he is. Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
I am. Yeah, that is correct. It does, in a layman's term, act in a cone type of configuration. Comes out from the base of the antenna, and your impacts directly below the site when considering transmission and propagation is much lower than further away from the site. So when you're below it, it's actually lower in layman's terms.
Thank you very much.
All right. Do you wish to say anything else, Mr. Dieters?
No, there's nothing else from my side, as there has not been any queries relating to the design. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Does the panel have any other questions of Mr. Dieters? If not, all right.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, could I just
Yes.
ask one more question? You will have seen the report in which it's recommended that the shroud material be changed. Have you considered what that's for bushfire reasons? Have you considered alternate material to that?
Yes, I've spoken to our manufacturing and construction team. That will not be a problem for them to adhere to. They'll just the two items will be that they have to consider is the visual amenity, so being able to provide an acceptable visual outcome for the heritage listed structure, and then also ensuring that RF propagation, so that it's not blocking radio signals, and we've now added in that additional requirement that has come through as part of the advice to ensure that it is it is not flammable and can meet those requirements put in place there.
All right. Any other questions?
Look, Mr. Chair, I might just ask one more question of Mr. Dieters. So, the submitters have all showed real concern about the level of EMR within the school site. And there's been talk of it being a tenfold increase. Have you done any? Do you have any assessment of what the actual increase would be within the site, within the school site? Given your earlier point that the submission, the radiation tends to distribute in a cone. Do you know whether there would be an increase at ground level for students, or if there is, do you have any thoughts on what that increase might be?
So the easiest way to answer that is our review and calculations have, as Max stated earlier, are within the Australian standards and below the required limits. The exact value, I don't know off the top of my head, sorry.
You've got the Panzer EME report, Phil, if that would help.
Okay.
Yep.
If
so
you have that, Max, thanks.
Yeah. If you go off the Panzer EME report, which is provided as an appendix to the development application, you'll see that the 0 to 50 distance from the site has a percentage of the public exposure limit of 1.56%. So if you were to consider I suppose, area of the education campus, if you then go to 50 to 100 metres, that percentage predicted is 2.44%. And then at 100 to 200 metres, so I suppose in terms of the site to the campus, perhaps a significant distance, 100 to 200 metres, has the maximum EME level calculated at 3.04%. So that has been the maximum EME level calculated for the proposed changes to the site as per the report. So that's at 100 to 200 metres from the site.
Okay, thank you.
Are we allowed to speak, just to comment on that?
Well, not normally, but I will in this instance because it's obviously important to you. You can ask a question.
Thank you,
You can ask
David.
a question. Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to build on what Max was saying. I have the EME report in front of me too, but I think the question from John was, at what distance from the tower is the tenfold increase? And that is the 50 to 100 metres distance from the tower. There'll be a tenfold increase. As Lee pointed out, and as others have pointed out, it will go up from 19.35 milliwatts per metre squared to 230 milliwatts per metre squared. That's the tenfold increase. And that is where the uncovered playgrounds are, where the children are playing at the school. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess the question is that at ground level though, or is that above, well above ground level? That was my direct question on that.
Yes, so it says in the report, all EME levels are relative to 1.5 metres above ground and all distance from the site are 360-degree bands.
Okay, thank you.
All right. What's the answer, Mr. Peel or Mr. Dieters?
I think the information provided by the submitter is accurate, but just to reiterate, that is well within the safety standards put forward by ARPANZA.
All right. Well, what will happen now is we will conclude the public meeting. What the panel will do is take on board and consider what's been put to us, and we will publish our decision in due course. And thank you all for your input. So we can now formally close the public meeting and we will retire to consider the matter.